right, friends, we are here once again for part 2 of this afternoon's wow discussion section. That puts a little bit of pressure on some of you to come up with some wowing questions for what we call the decade of the wowing 20s. We call it the wowing 20s because you will be wowed, and that's not a dog barking. By the time 2029 rolls around, and you look back over your shoulder, and it's New Year's Eve, December 31st, 2029, you will say, wow. Yes, many times. Wow. What you managed, what you learned, what you navigated successfully, and all the stuff that crashed. Yes, it's probably one of the most interesting decades ever, the wowing 20s. All right, so it's your turn, and we've given quite a bit of info here, and so now who would like to begin this afternoon's discussion? Shall we start with you, Mr. Dorsey?
Yes, please, thank you.
So welcome. And you are a Leo.
I am a Leo.
And you have some questions likely, and reports, and all kinds of things. So let's start wherever you want.
Okay. Well, I'm going to start on the Soma spray.
What is it called?
Nanosoma.
Nanosoma.
Yes. And that was one. That was the first one.
Nanosoma. Nanosoma.
Yes.
So it was sent in by Mr. Leary there, from attendee from Sedona, and that he was sending this big discovery. He said he and his colleagues at all had great success with this for healing just about anything. So please continue, Dorsey.
Yes, but a quick rundown of what it covers. It supports healthy immune system function, shown to remove and replace PUFA, shown to reduce inflammation, it increases vitamin D level by 39%.
Yes, that's what it was famous for, to increase vitamin D, and then doesn't it also stimulate the body to make vitamin C or something?
Yes, and it reduces hypertension, reduces high blood pressure, blood sugar. It just basically helps the body heal itself, basically.
And it comes in a spray, is that correct?
Yep, this right here is in a spray. But I think I read something that comes in a gel. It's got different types, but the main one I'm talking about now is spray.
Spray, all right. And we believe you spray it in your mouth or do something like this, and then put some drops in water.
And the average price of it online is about $50 some dollars a bottle.
About $50 a bottle.
About 30 for a 30-day supply on average.
And 30-day supply.
Yes.
You know what? So you go to the hospital and you say to the hospital or the doctor, what can I get well for $50?
Yeah.
They laugh at you.
Yeah, that's true.
They kick you out. But go ahead, you're doing good there. You've redeemed yourself.
Okay, well, I appreciate it. But it's a whole lot. I left your vehicle a big printout of all the testimonies.
Yes, we saw homework. We used to give homework for years. We were famous for giving homework, and then when 2012 came around, we said, all right, we've been lightened up on homework. Now you are giving our vehicle homework. It's very fascinating.
It's
Roles have reversed. Before we know, you will think you are channeling us or something.
You're right.
All right, go for it.
But some of the testimonies, I'll just read off a few of them. There was so many.
These are testimonials.
Testimonies from people that, I mean, it just, I'm going to order some. That's
These are testimonials from people
that have
who use
it and got results.
Soma.
So, yes, they got the results. So they said it started to notice change in my skin the first week. A girl she had pink eye, and after a day or two, it had cleared up. It's good for children, so I figure it's good for children. So my wife started using it 10 days ago. She has a diabetic ulcer in her toe for at least 3 months, and it was showing no improvement with antibiotics and dressing. We said we can see remarkable results in just a week on that. Cold sores, oral spasms. I hadn't heard of oral spasms, but this person said they woke up and at night with oral spasms, and they were thinking about filing their having the teeth filed down because they woke up in so much pain. But they said after they used this, they said the oral spasm, they didn't wake up anymore with oral spasms.
Right, these are good testimonials. So it looks like Nanosoma is going to get a 5-star review.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Right, that's from Dorsey now. First it got a big review from Mr. Leary. Now Dorsey endorses Mr. Leary. Everyone's happy.
Was the Apex the oxygenated water? He said
Apex oxygenated water.
Yes. And from my field, it was, it says the creation of the Apex derives from 2 paradigm-shifting scientific medical discoveries. The first comes from the understanding of specific properties of minute but negatively charged particles of silver that makes it ideal delivery for carrying oxygen to positively charged pathogenic cells. The second arises from Otto Warburg's discovery in the 1930s that cancer cells thrive in oxygen-deficient hypoxia.
Yes, and that's long been known.
Yes.
That you bring oxygenation to the body. This is why practitioners of breathing and those who know how to oxygenate the body through breath can really achieve good health. That's why people hang out in those oxygenation tanks and things. So this water, is it water? Yes, Apex water.
Apex water.
It boosts the oxygen levels in the body, basically boosting the immune system and flushing out any type of problems. Are there testimonials from this as well?
Yeah, there's a big stack of those too. But what I read, remember years ago I took, the food grade hydrogen peroxide.
Yes.
Put oxygen in your body.
Yes.
But that's more, you have to be more careful about taking that.
Yes, you should be very careful with a
But
food
reading
grade.
this right here, this really seems like a safer way to get the oxygen in your body.
So safer than hydrogen peroxide. Yes.
Yes.
And so if you were to pick one, did one sound more favorable to you than the other, or both good?
I think both. I think both are good.
All right, so now this is very good for our readers, our listeners, because everyone, as we said in part 1, you need to boost your immune system, and there's going to be more pathogens, more disease, more problems running rampant. This is how they are going to control you. Media, mind management, encouraging you to focus on disasters and fearful situations. So you counter that by being human, having a good sense of humor, and boosting your immune system. Absolutely. So, all right, so those are good reports, Dorsey, and Mr. Leary, thank you again for your thoughtfulness in informing the moon people and the world, and cheers and blessings to you, Mr. Tim Leary, for your generosity of spirit. So what else do you have in that stack of goodies that you always bring to
you
class?
touched on it earlier. I was doing research on that in Maui, the fire.
The Maui fires,
and
yes.
how they're purposely letting it burn, not sending help. Like you said, give each family $700 to the family sending babies to Ukraine. And they said they don't plan on giving the property back to the people. They think about
in Maui.
In Maui.
Yes, our vehicle heard that land developers were there days afterwards offering to buy up the property. And another thing our vehicle read too was that was said to her by someone, they want to, there's been plans to digitize the island and to make it a 15-minute island.
Yes, yeah, that's what I heard.
And to turn it all into an AI center. Now, an island is easily captured. And long ago, when Enki, it was close to Hina's home territory, Eastern Africa, when he was doing his millennia's worth of genetic engineering, if you live 100 years and remember 100 years, you think that's a lot. But these Anunnaki, they came here 500,000 years ago. And from all practical purposes, Enki is still alive. So a millennia to them, 1,000 years, a small amount of time is what we are saying. Very, very small amount of time. And to have to figure out how to make life forms and what to do with them. And now the result of all this life form, or what's left after the flood, let's just say the Anunnaki are unhappy with the people that dwell on Earth because they cannot control them. And your humanity and your innate connection to Earth is what deeply disturbs and threatens some of the extraterrestrial invaders. All right, we go off on a tangent there. Please continue, Dorsey.
Well, that was, and that I want to touch on that.
Back to Hawaii, yes, because we were saying that the Maui Island, if they turn it to an AI compound and it's all digital, that would be their, quote, first captured experience in Island, because Enki, back to that for a moment, he would have his laboratory on the mainland, but often when he had an experiment, he would put it on an island. So that if you have an experiment, if it goes bad, if it's on an island, it stays on an island. And another aside here, another Hawaiian island called Molokai, that was where all of the lepers were shipped. And they were isolated on the Hawaiian island of Molokai so that people did not catch leprosy or have to look at the lepers. And leprosy is a disease that just distorts you, and your flesh, you basically eat yourself. It's an autoimmune disease in today's terminology. And so when people wanted to have a controlled experiment, they took over an island. And this is a U.S. island. And so this is the buzz. They want to have a controlled experiment and turn it into a what would you call it? Instead of a smart city, it would be a smart island.
Yeah, I guess so.
And you would be totally captured. And then look at the wealthy people who live there. Are they already captured? Are they really human? Please continue, Dorothy.
Okay, well, to me, it just didn't make a lot of sense, but like I said, they're not human, destroying a beautiful property like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
They have no human connection. And many people have said that it was paradise on Earth from their point of view.
Yeah, I've never been, but I heard it's beautiful.
Our vehicle's been there. She's been to Lahaina. She's been to Maui. Yes.
Okay, the next thing I would touch on is they said Biden's planning a new COVID restrictions and lockdown. So.
Oh, Biden wants more. The team running Biden, they are not happy with people out and about. They want more lockdown.
But I don't think it's going to, I don't think it's going to be effective as it did before. I don't think it was too effective.
No, once you give people a taste of freedom, it's difficult to scare them with the old tactics that really turned out to be a man under a sheet instead of a real ghost. Do you understand?
Oh, yeah.
And so, but again, there will be those who will be fleeced again, and there will be those who will say, fleece no more.
Well, you know what, Pete? I know somebody went to the hospital. They said they had COVID. I said, they didn't believe they had COVID, so I gave them a test. They tested them, said they had COVID. But did the personal test, guess what, came up negative. So they can just be saying that just to put the fear back into people.
Well, many people talked about that PPC test or whatever it was called, that it had too many false positives. And there's been so much chicanery and lies, big lies, small lies, big deceits, total distortions about everything that COVID involved, and some speculate that it will turn out to be a scandal for the centuries what was pulled off with COVID, and the level of destruction of human life, the sickness, it's ongoing, but also in the U.S., how many lives were destroyed, how many businesses were destroyed, how many things will never come back. Yet on an upside level, many parents were clueless as to what was going on in schools. And so the homeschool boom after the COVID debacle has really created a big awakening among people. And there will be a back to basics movement. Well, we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. So do you have anything to ask us, Dorsey?
No, not at this moment. I'm pretty sure something probably pop up later on.
All right, so you are complete.
For right now.
All right, very good. And once again, thank you, Mr. Leary, and thank you, Mr. Dorsey, for the recommendations. And to our listeners, get with it, get healthy. All right, who's next for a question, comment, insight, or even a joke?
This is Roger.
Welcome, Roger.
I've got a simple question, actually, or comment.
All right, a little louder, please.
In looking at Google Maps over in China, I noticed...
Looking at
a Google Map of China.
Yes.
I noticed that they have lots of hills and valleys and rivers in between, but when you look at it from up above, it looks a lot like a stylized dragon. The river basins do. So I wonder if that's where they came up with the idea of calling them, say, the dragon, or using the dragon as a character.
No, they knew the reptiles. It's not just the lay of the land. The ancient memory of the Chinese was their heavenly teachers were reptilian. You have been to China. What year did you go to China?
2000.
When was it?
2000.
2000. And you said that they were all riding bicycles, yes?
There were cars, but not very many.
Not very many.
Right.
When our vehicle went in 2015, so 15 years later, or half of a Saturn cycle, there were more cars than you could imagine. And when you went on the freeways, no one knew what they were doing, and there was constantly passing by pile-ups and crashes on the side of the highways. And some of the highways, well, we have seen pictures. Our vehicle has seen pictures. But even there, when our vehicle was riding on the highway, sometimes there would be 10, 12 lanes going in one direction. As you know, in the U.S., you build slowly. Country road, a horse path, a wagon path, then it became a farm to market road, etc. And over time, you built. China went from an agricultural poverty to industrialization to technology in less than 50 years, 30 years, 40 years. They didn't allow the psyche of the people and the development to call for the need of what could be useful. They just threw stuff down. China is the rulership of China is very cruel. They're cruel to their people. They were cruel to them during COVID. They locked them in buildings. They round up the Uyghurs, which are a form of Muslims. They go after the Christians. They go after anyone who does not play the social credit game. They are pinched for land, livable land. They are certainly pinched for food. This is why they want to move into Africa. This is why they're doing the Belt Road Initiative. And this is why many people speculate they want California. This has been a feeling for a long time that China wants California. That's why if you are living in California, We know it is paradise. It's beautiful. It's one of the most beautiful states there is. However, it doesn't look like, if you are living in California, you are going to have any turnaround anytime soon. Now, perhaps if you are tucked up there in the Sierras and that part of eastern California, but from the coastal regions, from Tijuana and San Diego, all the way up there through the north, to Portland and up to Seattle, you're going to have one problem after another, folks. Because if China really does want the West Coast, they will stop at nothing. Between their germ warfare, to put it mildly, bioweapons, the term today, geoengineering, which many people who are in a geoengineering war, we call it weather control, and just being able to batter the state down. Remember, Nancy Pelosi's made the ancient one there, Nancy Pelosi, but she's just behind the other reptile there, Dianne Feinstein, who's really the ancient one. They made all kinds of deals with the Chinese. So it doesn't bode well. And it doesn't bode well for China. They are in the Evergrande economic collapse. They are not doing well on imports or exports. Exports are way down. All these people think the BRICS are going to save them. Your money makes no difference if you are corrupt at the core. If you are operating under the principle that you hate people, that you must control people, that you must keep them down and locked up and under some kind of indoctrination, it's not a winning strategy. It was Stalin's strategy, it was Hitler's strategy, it was Pol Pot's strategy. It creates a horrific type of field for a while. But it is, it's self-undoing in full swing. And right here in the United States, you can look at Nacho, self-undoing 12th house sun in full swing. And they just keep digging deeper and deeper holes. So we do not see the dark dragon from China being successful at all. But in China, it is very important to be, if you are a person of import, you were to be buried on the dragon lines. There are more, or Wales, they are deeply invested in the dragon. England, yes, but they sort of hide it behind the royal lion. But China it has a greater continuity of memory because it basically has had a civilization uninterrupted for about 5,000 years, of course, until more recent times. And so there is cultural memory, and people don't always know why. We talked about the buildings that have a big hole in the middle, a big rectangle. That's for when the dragon returns. They have memory of a flying reptile. And is it true that there could be flying dragons? Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. If you could have a pterodactyl from prehistoric times, it's not so far-fetched that there would be dragons. They used to put that on a map. The parts that they didn't know, that were they weren't certain what would lie beyond a certain point, they would write down, and there be dragons. So it is true that there is a reptilian type of intelligence that wants to stay behind the scenes. Look at the story of Ceylon, which used to be Sri Lanka. The Indians, the Indian culture, would talk about trading with the reptilian creatures. They called them Nagas, and they lived on Ceylon, which is now Sri Lanka. It's an island off of what would be southeast India, Sri Lanka, old Ceylon. And many believe that Ceylon was also at one time a rocket launch spot, just like Jerusalem. But the Anunnaki had a portal there, and they launched rockets into space from Ceylon. But the Indian people, they said that they traded with those who dwelled on Ceylon, but they would drive their boats over and they would leave their goods on the shore, because the reptilian people did not want the people that lived on the mainland of India to see them. And this has been very, very true through history, whether you are looking at the proliferation of pyramids around the planet, which is basically an Anunnaki structure to manage energy. Sometimes these pyramids were step pyramids, and inside, the reptilians would dwell inside the pyramids because the rapid passing of daylight to darkness was incompatible with their nervous system and with their biology. And so they wanted to be underground, underwater, inside of mountains. They wanted to be where they could not be approached, where they were safe. So if they had underwater developments, no one could get to them. If they were inside of mountains, very high mountains like in Switzerland, it was inaccessible to humans. So they're claiming there are hundreds of thousands of pyramids all over the world, many of them buried. Some in Russia buried many pyramids, and all built by the Anunnaki, again for energy, for homes, but also as an entry point to go into the underworld. They always talked about the underworld, and in modern times people think they're talking about Dante's different layers of hell and things of this nature. The underworld is not necessarily hell, although there are aspects of it that if you are on the surface, you got down there, it would look like hell because of what they were doing down there. But the underworld was the tunnel system, the underground, and it connected the entire world, and many of the premier connections took you to the real underworld, which was Antarctica, the underworld. It's the land under your world. Just to digress there and get off into that subject. So you opened a bit of a can there of information, Roger, about the dragons. They are real, and there's been speculation that the UFO discussion is tabled for a while, but many people say it will implode within the next 5 years, likely more towards the end of the decade, and it might not be the government disclosing to you, oh, by the way, and well, think about this, and oh, well, we forgot to tell you, and yes, this is true, etc. It may be a staged invasion. Werner von Braun warned about this. It also may be a real invasion. Why would Elon X mark the spot call his new cuckoo, his new chatter platform X? It's to plant X in your consciousness. All right, who else has a question?
Hi, Pease. This is Hina.
Hina, welcome.
Aquarius. Pease, we know from a 3D perspective some information on what happened in Lahaina, but it's becoming more and more clear to many of us it was an energy-directed weapon. My question is...
So this is what you're saying, the buzz is out there now that
Yes.
this was the energy-directed weapon.
Yes, because of its precise
Targeted.
target, yeah.
Yes, and there's always been reports of people that were there before the fire started that said they felt weird. Even the night before, people said they felt weird in the dream state, and they said there was some kind of weird energy out and about.
Right.
All right, continue.
So I have a two-part question. The first part is why didn't the benevolent ETs intervene in some way like they have done in the past with neutralizing nuclear warheads? And two is I'm seeking to understand a higher dimensional perspective on looking at this situation.
Well, first of all, the first question, why didn't the good forces intervene as they have on nuclear situations? It is because these energy weapons, what are they called again? DEW? Direct energy weapon, DEW. Nuclear has a completely different reverberation signature than these directed energy weapons. The name implies we are directing it right here like a laser at this spot. And even though people may feel the funk of it, when they turn it off, it's gone. It's very laser-like. We'll take out this area. Nuclear has a signature that ripples. It ripples through the dimensions. It leaves a very bad radiation footprint, among many other things. And so it's from the controller's point of view, the DEWs are clean way to clean the planet. You follow? Mm-hmm. A nuclear would create problems that would sort of destroy the area and then make it perhaps unlivable for too long. Where what they wanted here, as many are saying, it's a land grab. And again, if you are a localized people, all located in one spot, and you are united in one spot, not very large, against the global forces, all your power in the world may not be able to shut off these technologies. This is part of the problem of the future. You are dealing, and even within the native people, there were debates whether they were going to go woke or whether they were not going to go woke, and this whole woke thing has become a travesty all over the planet. So that's could be why, and the other thing is don't necessarily count on good forces to. Good forces can work in your life. Are good forces going to work for a town, a state, a country? Not necessarily. This is what we want to get through to you. You each can manifest saving your own bacon, perhaps, right place, right time, tuning in signal-wise. But as soon as you get compounded people, all with different beliefs, it's difficult to pull something off on that capacity because they're not all aligned, they're not all focused. Each of you can make a choice, focus, and say, spiritual world, or mind of God, or field of existence, or God, or whoever you're calling on, I need help now with this. Those people were not in a situation, they didn't feel the threat, number one. They didn't know anything was about to occur. It's not like people during World War II flooded the churches even during World War I and knew where their loved ones were fighting and prayed all together in a building praying for something. It's focused. This is what you are going to learn. That individually you can focus to create what you want, and a small of you as a collective may, but it's difficult to get people to all hold the same focus. This is why people are taught prayer, song, meditation. It allows a group to focus, which is not an easy thing to do. When you stand up and you all say pledge allegiance to the flag, or you sing your songs of patriotism to whatever country you are in, that is a focus. But how long does that focus maintain itself? Please continue, Hina.
So it worries me that they've done this, it was carried out really well.
It would be a
where-
big concern, we like the word concern rather than worry, to all of you. Please continue.
Right, big concern for all of us as to where this is heading and in whose hands this terrible, the way they've used this technology. But from a higher dimensional perspective, Pete, how would you look at this?
Well, there's lots of higher perspectives to look at, and we'll say that we'll go back to the story of Noah. However you want to interpret it from a Christian point of view or whatever Anunnaki point of view, Anunnaki, he was Utna Pishtam, related to Enki, so to speak, and Enki warned him and said to make preparations that something is coming. There are people who are being warned that there's big problems afoot. A large majority of the people are oblivious to what's going on, and we are not saying that you are going to be inundated as Noah was, but there was a sweep, and there could be sweeping changes that compel people, and those who are oblivious are oblivious. They're not going to know what's going on. They don't want to know what's going on. They live in what we would call shallow lives. Yet you are all blessed with a human body, and it is your choice, and that word choice, to live your life how you choose and to create the karma that you want. And because you are unaware that what you do is going to come back to you, and so-called spiritual teachings have been really depleted on the planet in the last 100 years, 50 years for certain. How many good people are there really? How many really good people are there? You can say, well, I know lots of good people. All right. Well, how do they spend their time? What do they do with their time? What's their priority? How many of them really care about their body? How many of them care about nature? How many of them talk to nature? How many of them have a communication with nature? Now, in regard to this, your question about how could bad things happen, let's just say that the death count is low still. It's a little over 100, perhaps under 120, but there are still more than 1,000 people missing. And if they are the majority of the ancestors, sometimes people die in groups. As tragic as it is, they die in groups, sometimes in flames. You have the story of Mount Sigur, the Cathars who walked into the fires. They die in groups, and they go over in groups, and they have great power once they go over. There is a big volcano on Maui, and if you leave the shoreline and you take the road up the mountain, it moves from tropical rainforest and open fields the further you get up there, and then it starts to get more barren and tundra-like, and you get to the top, and there's a big volcano up there. Inside the volcano are all manner of dishes and devices, and that's just what you see. And it's, of course, top secret government area, and you're only allowed to do a little bit of a look-see, and then it's not accessible. Big island, you have a big volcano there. So we are saying that retaliation may come from the deceased, and that the ancient people of Maui may activate that volcano to save the island? Just to save the island. What else, Hina?
Well, thank you, Pease. I mean,
If you see that volcano activated, just remember, it is blowback. However it happens, it's blowback for those who want to control. Go ahead.
For sure, it's been another effort to open up our hearts, open up, kind of awaken us. Unfortunately, people, as Pease, you were saying, sacrificed to go in a group, but there was a purpose in it. But we are awakening in a harsh way, more and more.
Yes, there's it's hard to avoid opening your eyes during these days and looking at what the truth is, no matter how much it's twisted and turned and distorted. People are beginning to know something's very wrong.
Yeah.
And this, on some level, is a very good sign. On some level, one auntie, they call them aunties in Hawaii, the elder women are called aunties. And our vehicle did a trip there one time. She took a couple dozen people on a power trip, they called them. And they spent about 10 days, 2 weeks in Hawaii. And one of the aunties that they met there, and she talked about the culture and the ancientness of it and the people, and the indigenous Hawaiian people are beautiful people. They really are. She said, to us, she said, death is just a change of address. Now, it's nice to know, and we would agree, death is a change of address. But you are hearing it. As she said, to us, meaning the culture of the Hawaiian people. That's their belief. It's not their wish or their hope. It's their truth. And it happens to be an actual truth. And if we are saying that they would die in a way knowing it was a change of address, a change of location. Just something to remember. Indigenous people, because of their closeness to the land, and because even in Indian cultures or any cultures, there's always the wise ones, the few ones who in council, or they remind the rest of the people. And because they are elders, they are respected. And so they would take charge on the other side. They would go over and know they were dead and mobilize. Not the way that it's not the way that every culture thinks. Let's put it that way. And you have so many cultures that are questioning, and then you have cultures that we've been victims for hundreds of years, and will continue to be victims for hundreds of years. It just depends. It depends on your soul, how advanced your soul is. Yes, it's a lot to take in, Hina, and it's unfortunate that these crazy controlling people, they're not going to say, oops, I got caught stealing cookies, Mom knows, now I better not do it anymore. They don't care how much they get caught. They will blatantly lie to you over and over again and think nothing of it. Get this in you, that so much of what's on the media, people are blatantly lying to you. Remember to deep breathe, friends. Remember that deep breathing helps you balance all this information. What else, Hina?
That's it for now. I'll continue reflecting on this.
All right. All right. Send them your prayers. But again, You have a lot of scammers already there. This is the problem when a disaster strikes, the scammers move in. And because you have digital everything today, the digital has created a huge growth in criminals. Just like AI, some people say, well, AI can solve this problem and that problem. Well, it may. It can be used for good, just like a knife can be used to cut up a potato or to be a very valuable tool in the kitchen or out in the bush or whatever. But it also can be used in the wrong hands. So different tools in the wrong hands, and you've got a lot of wrong hands today. And it seems like they're really proliferating and coming out of nowhere, and that's because they are desperate. They don't like that people are pushing back, and the backlash is coming at them, so they're going to double down, triple down, quadruple down. We'll see how it unfolds. But as we've said, aim for where goodness prevails. All right, who else has a question?
Hi, Peas. It's Michelle.
Michelle, welcome.
Yes, thank you. Cancer.
Cancer, yes.
Yes. So you, the Peas, have enlightened us on what's going on with Nacho Joe and the Trumpster. It is very unprecedented, to say the least. But there is also something that Trump continues to say about, they're not after me, they're after you. And I'd just like to know if there's any truth to that, being that it's coming from Trump.
If they can make an example of Donald Trump, Donald J. Trump, billionaire, and they can come up with all these obvious bogus indictments, there may be a legitimacy behind them, but when you prosecute one side and not the other, then it all becomes bogus. So it shows that basically what they are, he's being used as an example. If he's really legitimate, some people think he's on the dark team. Some people think he's a BlackRock asset. And BlackRock, if you look at the portfolios, you'll see that BlackRock and Vanguard have their hands in just about everything. And they will own X amount of the shares. And if you own a certain number of the shares, then you can control the rest of the company. Whether it is Target, whether it is Pepsi-Cola, BlackRock rules. And so the message would be, and he's delivering the message, if they can get me, they can get you. And so what that's meant to do, it's unfair on his part to say this, because he's using intimidation to scare you, to support him. He also refuses still to acknowledge the debacle of COVID, of the lockdowns, and his whole role in looking at Fauci and giving Fauci the eye, but never ousting Fauci, one of the biggest criminals that your planet has seen in modern times. He is like a Dr. Mengele. He has, some say, it was he who put in the whole thing against the gays, the HIV and the AIDS thing. He was deeply involved in that. He is a very, very dark player. He's a little, he's a squirmy little
Rat.
What else? He's a squirmy little slug or something.
Weasel.
He's a squirmy little something, but he's little, there's no doubt about it. And so they've got him. They've given him so much power, he will do anything. And then he pulls it off. So part of the message of going after Trump and creating this legal quagmire everywhere, and the prosecutors and those who are doing this, they're idiots. They don't have much to stand on. They all have shady backgrounds as well. So and we're not defending Trump. He's put himself in this. He's insulted people, and he has a sleazy background. He does love America. He's done good things for it. He has a sleazy background. So the message is, and he's telling you, they want you to, meaning don't dare question these people because you'll end up in the same mess I'm in. That's what he's telling you. Will you? Likely not. Likely not. They can't afford to prosecute all the people that are awakening. And if you do a little bit of research, there are many, many, many voices out there. Politicians, scientists, and everything in between that are pushing back against all of this. They don't like these agendas. Look here in the Raleigh-Durham area. Teacher shortages, bus people shortages, nursing shortages. People don't want to play the Coca-Cola game, so they quit. And they may not be in the face of these people, but every one of you who doesn't shop at Target or stops buying Bud Light is ruined. It's reported they have to sell 7 or 8 other brands just to break even. First quarter, they lost $400 million. The pushback is great, and they're making an example of Trump, and he plays along with it. And he wants to drag you into his drama. We see that so many unknowns could prevail between now and a year from now. And people say, well, you have to have all the politicians in place, and this protocol has to follow, and you have to have this by debate, and if you don't do it by this date, in December, blah, blah, blah. Let's just say that you are entering a period of so much turmoil that even by next summer, the slate could be wiped clean, and you are starting all over again a year from now. That all the people that were involved are somehow eliminated. Again, difficult to tell who's on the up and up, and people want a savior, and then they want to go back to watching their TV shows, whatever streaming, to be entertained. People want desperately to be entertained. They don't know how to entertain themselves. They want to sit there and scroll. They don't know how to socialize anymore. This is another thing that's happened. People have lost the ability to have a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, to play chess with each other, to just interact. Not all, but you've got about a 50-50 divide, and this will be, of course, a split world. We'll see how it's going to unfold. Some people predict that the U.S. is going to fall apart, that it is going to divide itself. And it'd be nothing that the New World Order would like more than to have the USA come into a cold civil war. Meaning there's no hot fighting, so to speak, that it's cold. That the blues will freeze out the hots being, of course, the reds. What else, Michelle?
Nothing else, just a comment to say thank you, Peace, for your guidance on just getting back into nature. I think when I see children playing, jumping in mud puddles or playing on swings or just outside in nature, it just warms my heart. And if the parents are around, I compliment them on that. I applaud them for that.
Good, keep it up.
Yes.
And you yourselves, once it starts raining,
yes,
run outside for a few minutes. Let those drops get on your head. Put your bare feet on the ground. And we know, Michelle, you said you took that up. Bare feet on the ground. One of the very, very wonderful things you can do for yourself. And then if it rains and the water's wet and there's, you be careful with the lightning now, but it's nature hears your admiration of it, and you're coming into a bit of hurricane season now, and they're always wanting to rev you up. It's the end of the world is around the corner. This is the climate fanatics. It's endless climate disaster news. It's all going to fall apart tomorrow. Well, if you're raised with that and you believe it can totally make you unhealthy, unproductive, and why bother attitude. And this is what they want. Remember, the globalists are carrying out the ET agenda. Some of them know it, some of them don't. And even though they are UN and World Economic Forum and all the other big lettered names there, they're people for the most part, unless they've been replaced. And even if they are part reptilian, they snarl at each other. They don't trust each other. They don't get along. It's not a kumbaya moment. Your founders of the USA, you've seen different artist pictures of them and read different stories about all the conflicts that they had. And there were hundreds of them, and they all played a role, and history sometimes distorts the role. Some of them they wanted the monarchy, others wanted a president for life. We believe it was Hamilton who wanted a president for life. They couldn't break away from the old tradition of unelected officials or visitors from heaven ruling you. This is what the Chinese kept up for a long time. The emperor in the forbidden city, in his palace, 999 rooms or something like this. 999. It means you get as close to the gods as you can. But the gods are the reptilian gods, the dragons, so to speak. Ooh, you've chosen a good time to be alive, friends. You really have. And if you have a sense of humor, and so important, we're going to go back to this again and again and again, you must be able to manage your money. You must have no debt whatsoever. And you must be able to be talented enough to bring in work and to keep working. Many people are planning on retirement, and their money's draining because of inflation, and many people have had 401ks and all these kind of Roth IRAs and all this stuff, and they are invested for them, and they are invested with under the aegis of this new corporate fanaticism called ESG, Environmental Social Government. And there's no profit, there's no fiduciary type of duty. Fiduciary is a word in banking and real estate, and it means that you put the interest of the client first. And you take a fiduciary capacity, not, hey, I'm greedy, I'm feeding myself with your money. You take on the role of guiding the investor or whatever, and it is a trustworthy position. And so all of these investment corporations, including Vanguard and BlackRock and all, people are up in arms because their portfolios are not making any money. And investing in environmental social governments, they're losing money. They're closing down any place they made money. And then the DIE, we call it DIE, diversity, inclusion, and equity, people are backing away from this. One fellow recently wrote, he said, they're starting to figure out that this DIE and this ESG is no different than a Nigerian love scam. We thought that was really funny. Whether it is a Nigerian love scam or not, people are getting scammed left and right. They are using, in some cases, they are using AI to mimic someone's voice, call someone up, and it's the AI with their relative's voice saying, send me money. Yes. So scams are everywhere because of electronics. Electronics evolved faster than your intelligence did, faster than your nervous system can compute, faster than your psychic abilities evolved. So people are befuddled and they are lost rather than tuning in, and you all have the capable of tuning in, especially if you are in nature. That's why we send you to nature, because nature and the beauty of nature develops your psychic senses. Beauty enhances all of your senses. Whether you are looking at a moonflower. Now, if you haven't had the privilege to grow moonflowers, we say put it on your list. They are these little white seeds, and they love it when it's really hot. And the flower comes out at the end of the afternoon, and it bursts open, a beautiful white flower. It sort of unfolds, and it has the most exquisite scent in nature. And it stays open in the early evening, all evening, and early morning. And as soon as the sun comes, it closes and withers on the vine and falls. It's not even 24 hours. But when you look at it and you see the exquisiteness of this flower that dares to grow and to live for less than 12 hours, or maybe 12 hours, we'll say, you have to admire nature and its beauty, its fortitude, its adaptability, its gift to you with sight, with smell, with sounds. And speaking of sounds, in case you haven't noticed, the cicadas, wow, are they throwing concerts this year for free? For free, even during the day. During the day, the afternoon, late morning, early evening, those cicadas are really, really, really busy, and this is not even a cicada year. You know, they crawl out of the ground, they do their symphonies, and then they die. And sometimes they're in the ground for 7 years. One of nature's marvels. But their sounds, what do their sounds do? Their sounds create something that Bob Monroe, from the Monroe Institute, a friend of our vehicle from long ago, he developed a technique called hemisync. And it was a way of balancing both sides of the brain. And we've taught you to do alternative breathing, to balance both sides of the brain. There's many ways to balance it, but he had this sound mechanism. And this is what the cicadas really, really, really do. They have this concert that they give, and they balance left brain to right brain. And so it's not just what you see in nature, it's what you hear. And when the birds know that you pay attention to them, and when the trees know that you pay attention, and everything in nature, whether it's an itsy-bitsy teeny-weeny spider, whether it is a cockroach, whether it is a giraffe, a camel, or a ferocious lion, all creatures, even your household pets, your dogs and your kitty cats, they have senses that you don't have and use. You use your senses to be industrialized, to make things, to do things, to build things, to communicate. The creatures live in nature. Their houses, their nests, their dens, their caves are simple, but they are super, super, super psychic. Out of all the animal kingdom, who would be at the head of the pack? Well, it's obvious the whales are right up there. That's just why they've always been the keepers of the ocean. And there's all kinds of problems going on in the ocean. We'll get into that in a diversion in a moment, and talking about not just cocaine bears, but cocaine sharks. So whales are the keepers inside the ocean. On land, it would be the elephants, éléphants. They are the wise ones. They are the keepers. They have the longest memory. And of course, there's the king of the beasts, the lions. Very, very, very psychically astute. Very, very. But not necessarily a keeper of wisdom. The whales have a human component to them. Dolphins, not so much, but whales, very, very ancient. Not all of them, but certain branches. But the elephants are probably your most regal, revered mammals on the planet. When it comes to the birds, well, we're caught now between a rock and a hard place. Because we're hearing a lot of coo, 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 coo. They're all going crazy here about what they think we are going to say. And the birds, well, Elon gave the bird to the bird there. He tossed out the birds. He went with something so dull, X. He could have gone with cuckoo and a pigeon. It would have been so cool to have the cuckoo cools. But he blew it. He didn't listen. What the puff. And but you consider on your planet today the eagle to be one of the most noble birds there is. But the pigeons, they know a lot. They know a lot. They're mixed with the people. The eagles, the golden eagles, the bald eagles, they are more the elites. But they do see things. They do keep track. They are the seers of the bird kingdom. But many birds are afraid of the eagles because of those big talons, you know. The hawks, well, the hawks are very important. The hawks are guardians. You saw the cover for the last class. It had a hawk on it, yes? Mm-hmm. It was called High Voltage and had a hawk sitting there on the high voltage wires if you went online to look at the album cover, as we're called. So last Sunday or the Sunday before, our vehicle was at home cruising Sunday afternoon. She's thinking about, yay, I got the day off, I'm not at the moon. Within a few minutes, big hawk comes flying in, right onto our vehicle's deck. She's got a big deck, with the pergola on top. And the big wings are there, and there it is with its talons. It lands on the deck railing and turns its head and looks at our vehicle.
What are you doing?
And she's sitting 10 feet away, and she's saying, whoa, hi, I was just nice to you. I put you on an album cover. Thank you for saying hello. Thank you for the protection, that kind of thing. And she said she was having some strange animal visitations, a little snake in the garage, a little mouse, never seen a mouse, shows up on her front step and is looking up at her. Oh, goodness gracious. Turtles, deer. She had a deer move into her yard. Bucky, she called him he would show up for a couple of days and just look in the living room window. It's animal creatures and nature are full of messages and can be fun. And if you have the book Spirit Animals, it can be a good idea to look things up and to see what messages the animal kingdom is sending to you. All right, so Michelle, you are good, yes?
Yes, thank you so much.
You're very welcome, and you are doing better and better, and you will get better and better. And as a Cancer,
Yes.
well, let's just say that there's some good things that could be coming your way. So who else has a question? Joseph, you've been very quiet.
Thank you very much for all the guidance that you've been giving me.
Yes, you always say that to us. We are quite appreciative.
I'm quite appreciative as well.
Yes, and you are very generous in giving gifts and all such things, so we appreciate your generous spirit, but you're also a trickster too. So what are you up to now?
Well, I'm inspired by the hope that was conveyed earlier, that if we intend to have great outcomes, we're more likely to see great outcomes.
Oh, you are going to be very impressed with your outcomes. Once you get out of where you are going to and come to where you are, it's been waiting for you. We thought that was pretty clever outcome. Go ahead.
Yes, and so I'm intending on that outcome, and I'm committed to following wherever that leads me.
Good. So, do you have any good questions?
Well, one of the questions, you had suggested we revisit the miniseries V.
Yes. Did you follow up on that?
Yes, I have seen it, and at the very end, they were able to push the reptiles off the planet.
Now, our vehicle didn't get to the end because she can only take in so much visual, and she gets overloaded. So how did they push the visitors off the planet?
They banded together and rebelled against them.
Yes. They did that throughout the whole series, but then what is it that brought them from the visitors to the victory?
They had banded together because they started actually believing that they were not in their best interest, and started seeing things being done against humans that they were opposed to, and that's why the humans banded together to rebel and push them off the planet.
So you're basically saying to us, there's the beeper. How did that happen? Acuity matters, yes?
Yes, they woke up to the fact that
Acuity. They started to think. Acuity matters. Because acuity is the ability to think and to see. Actual is reality. Acuity is the ability to think and see, and it is out of everything out there, it's your acuity that matters. Please continue. How did it leave you feeling when you watched the series?
For most of the series I was concerned, and then at the very end there was a hybrid that actually saved the reptilians from destroying the planet afterwards.
The hybrids.
That one hybrid and the portion of her humanity.
Oh, the girl.
The girl.
Yes.
The girl hybrid.
Yes, because there was her mother had an affair early on and got seduced by one of the young reptilian soldiers, and she got seduced by him when he was in his human body, and not, she didn't know really. She knew, and she thought he was just a young girl struck by his handsomeness, and then she delivered, she got pregnant, and it was a big scandal, and then she delivered 2 babies. One very, very reptilian, and one human. Is that how it went?
Yes. And the one human, I don't want to give it away, at the very end saved the planet by not having the reptilians destroy it.
Yes, well, it's worth looking at, people, because especially since the time frame, it was made in the 1980s. And before it was released, you had the E.T. movie, E.T. Phone Home. Acute reptile. Absolutely, totally reptilian. And throughout the 80s and early 90s, there were a few insinuations and simulations about reptilian. There was one when some guy was trapped on Mars or someplace with a reptilian creature. On some level, it's this information about the dark forces and the ETs that have invaded your planet. No one knows quite what to do with it, because still today there are people in the military who specialize in these things, and they don't understand the technology they're dealing with. This is the problem, is that just as you as humans do not understand the psychic nature of cats, for example, or the memory and the ability for animals to navigate Earth without any GPS, without studying geography, geology, meteorology, nothing. Your ancient selves in primitive times had much more of this. They had to have it in order to survive. As you became civilized, modernized, and this would all be after the flood. We put the big flood about 13,000 years ago. So over the course of the past 13,000 years, you had 11,000 years of sort of that is ambiguous to humankind. The last 2,000 years, you have a bit more of recorded history from the time of allegedly Christ onward. We say allegedly because there's still a lot of ambiguity about what happened during those times and whether the man that you call Jesus really existed as literature, which has been edited over thousands of years, portrays. Something happened. We conject that you were in a regime change with the extraterrestrials, and that now, a little over 2,000 years later, you are in another period of regime change. Elections, so to speak, cosmic elections. You can see that in Earth here in USA, you have elections every 4 years, and after 2 years, the elections are running again, and they get nasty and they fight. Just think that there's big fights over Earth right now, but it's not as if one's going to do better than the other. Everyone seems to want to control the people and to use Earth as a staging ground for supplies, for resources, and not just for gold. Gold, of course, has been part of the story of the visitors, the Anunnaki, so to speak, but it's all about experimentation and genetic engineering. In the V-series that Joseph was talking about, they were storing up humans for food, yes?
Yes.
Even though in the V-series they would have a little cage, and they would pick out a mouse, hold it by the tail, and then drop it in their mouth, and they would show that they were eating mice. But they were implying that they were buildings and huge spaceships filled with humans in sort of comatose humans. This is not the first time that this picture has been portrayed. Other people who have had E.T. encounters, E.T. experiments on movie Fire from the Sky, Travis Walton, we believe his name was, also depicted humans in cocoons being fed liquids kept alive for food, for experimentation, for labor. Your world has long been invaded. People have been snatched, abducted, met by dark forces and by good forces. But when you have such an encounter, it can really shake you up. Really shake you up. The beeper beeped, and we've covered quite a bit of subject today, and there's all kinds of revelations that must be brought forward. Dark matters, dark stuff. Truth matters, acuity matters, things that must be dealt with. And one of the big ones that's going to pull the rug out from everyone, no matter what your ideologies are, is how expensive things are going to get. Your money's not going to go very far. And if you have not planned well, and if you are in debt, it's going to be a big equalizer. And as you can see, no one cares about how many homeless people there are. This is part of the plan, to make more and more homeless. So be vigilant. You must guard your liberty, your freedom, your happiness, but live life not in worry. Live life knowing all these things, but knowing most of all that how you manage your mind is going to impact the great field of existence. We are going to start a new series, the At Home series, called Secrets of the Field. And we will be talking about the metaphysics, not so much the politics, but the metaphysics of how consciousness works in the body, in the field, how mass events unfold, and how this is affecting all of the cosmos. So you are strong enough, you are certainly capable, focus and discipline makes all the difference, but don't belabor yourselves. As we've said, we like good parties. And we encourage you to enjoy life, to live it to the fullest. And you live it by acknowledging the sunrises, the sunsets, nature, and everything that you have been provided with. So, friends, it's been our great pleasure. We invite you to aim for where goodness prevails, to trust that You are going to come to beneficial outcomes. Everything turns out better than you can imagine. And for today, we say goodbye, create the best, pleasant journeys, and the portal is closing. Good afternoon.
Thank you.